Hello and welcome to the Bucket Lister podcast. Join your host Keith Crockford along with special guests who have travelled the world, here to share stories of their adventures and plenty of inspo to add to your bucket list. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Bucket List podcast. I am your host, Keith Crockford, and today I have got the pleasure of chatting with one of our new guides who started with us last year, leading our trips. Some of you may have met him already, and he might have done a trip with you as a client as well. So we're pleased to have on the podcast today, Mike Tallentire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Keith.
So, Mike, what made you switch from customer to guide?
It was a bit of everything, really. Been on about 9 or 10 bucket list trips. Enjoyed the company. Enjoyed the literal company of the people being there. Enjoyed the guides. How everything was that easy and simple. And with my upcoming retirement from the fire service, I thought I'll see Keith and see whether I can look at things from the other side.
Yeah, and obviously with your experience being a fireman for as many years as you've done that, your knowledge of the countries and the places, we simply bit your hand off to come and join us team as well. So you did a Kilimanjaro last year for us?
Yes, we've done that as part of a private group kind of thing with the Strongmen charity, with another guide. It was good. It was a learning curve on the fact that I was then sitting on the other side of the fence and not being a customer. But it was in reality, it was good because you still enjoy the company of the clients. You still crack away, you're still enjoying the trip, but you've then also got about the safety and looking after all the other clients. So it was good. The other side of the fence was good.
Yeah, I think and I think that's the lovely thing as well, isn't it? Like, I love leading trips, and I still feel like when I'm on the trip that I am part of the group as well, that I feel like I am traveling as well. I think that's the important thing about it.
Yeah, definitely you are, although you the lead on the group, you are still part of the group, which is brilliant.
And I think as well that's kind of testament to our clients as well, that allow us to feel like that as well, isn't it? We don't tend to have issues on trips where you feel like you're really working. I think that's the important thing, isn't it?
Yes. I've found most of the bucket listers are genuinely, nice people, and they want the best for everybody. They want the best for everybody to achieve what they're doing, because we're all on the same journey on the trip, and everybody wants everybody to succeed. And it's always good natured, and there's a little bit of banter sometimes with the clients, and it's all good. It's, as you say, you're right in the fact that they accept us as part of their group.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And I had a slight problem towards the end of last year operationally, in terms of that I was a guide suddenly short on our Aconcagua trip, and I kind of thought, who could I put on this trip that is gonna be in physical condition to get up there and do it, and want to give it a real good crack? And that's when I sort of got in contact with you, just prior to Christmas, really, wasn't it, Mike?
It was, yeah. And it was a big ask. Aconcagua, it's a big mountain, and it genuinely took me a couple of days to think about it, because although physically and mentally I thought I would be okay, I knew how big the mountain was, and it took us 2 days to reply and say yes, just due to the fact that it's a big mountain, it's a big gig. So I was honoured.
And also as well from a guide's perspective, Mike, like it's not just you on that mountain, is it? It's you've got to make sure that you're okay and all the clients are okay as well.
Yes, without a doubt. It's a different arena. It's a different arena, the Aconcagua, that you're working in. It certainly isn't a Tukal or a Kilimanjaro. So therefore, you could almost break it up into two trips. You could break it up to the trekking up until a certain camp, Plaza de Mujas. After that, you go proper onto the mountain. So you could break it up into two trips, and you almost feel as if you're looking after two trips. People have almost done a killie before they set up on the mountain. So you've got to look after the health and well-being of everybody.
And yeah, I mean, Aconcagua is a difficult one, isn't it? Because ultimately, it's still there. It's one of the 7 summits. It's one of the easier of the 7 summits. I would say most people would probably start off with a Kilimanjaro on their 7 summit journey. A few people then might go and head over to Mount Elbrus when you could do that. But then kind of it's a jump then, isn't it, to Aconcagua? Because we're nearly reaching 7,000 meters at this point, aren't we?
Yeah. It's a big jump in the fact that the whole environment that you're working in as well. It's not only is it the altitude, it's the cold as well. I know a couple of nights up on base camp 2, we had 2 nights of minus 16 plus wind chill. So to be able to tackle that kind of summit, you have to have your wits about you mentally and physically.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, again, I think part of me thinks that, naturally it is kind of, if you've done a Mira peak, you've done an island peak, like it's kind of the next stage, isn't it? But the gaps are getting bigger between the stages at this point. Like the gap between a Kilimanjaro and an island peak is a lot smaller than a island peak in an Aconcagua trek.
Yes. I'll quote one of the clients that was on the trip who said, "I've done Kilimanjaro, I've done Island Peak, but nothing is compared to this." So me not doing obviously Island Peak, I haven't done Island Peak, but from what the clients' feedback from the clients was that Aconcagua was a step above Island Peak as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And why do you think it's a different ball game when you're getting up to an Aconcagua trip? I mean, obviously it's 1,000 meters, just over 1,000 meters more than Kilimanjaro, for example. But what makes it such a big step from there?
I think for me it's the amount of. It's an expedition. It's not a trek. It's an expedition in my eyes. So you start off and you have a couple of nights. You start off initially at a place called Puente del Inca. Lovely camp. We stopped in an old railway station, and whether that lulled everybody into, like this is going to be okay kind of thing, we stopped there, lovely night, and then off we went. A nice break, gentle ease in, 3-4 hours trekking to a camp called Confluencia, where we stopped 2 nights in tents, which was a good introduction. But then after that, we walk for approximately 9 hours up the valley, and we stopped at a camp called Plaza. Let's think. Plaza de Mujas. Yes, that's the place. Sorry. We stopped there for 4 nights. Now, them conditions there, camp is lovely. We're stopping in tents, but we're also doing a couple of acclimatization walks. So on one of them acclimatization walks, we're bagging a 5,100 meter mountain called Mount Benetti, which is a warm-up walk for going up to the mountain. We also go up to Camp 1 as a acclimatization walk, bringing half our gear back. But when we come back down, we are stopping there and we're living in the tent for 4 nights. Now, in this tent, it's minus on a nighttime. It's always minus on a nighttime. So you've got to be mentally and physically prepared to be living in them conditions for a minimum of 4 days just on that camp. So after that, you go onto the mountain proper. You go up to Camp 1 after you've done a couple of acclimatization walks, and you bring your rest of your gear up. So you've done 2 loads of approximately 10 kilos up to Camp 1. So after Camp 1, you then amalgamate your kit together, making headway to Camp 2. So you've approximately got 20 kilos worth of kit on your back up a steep incline up the mountain. So if you're not physically and mentally prepared to be living in these conditions for a week prior to then start living for a week on the actual mountain, you've got to take all that into account in the fact that mentally and physically you have got to be strong. You've got to put yourself sort of like not through the mill, but you will have to have been training for a period of time with a minimum of 20 kilos on your back, which is a lot different to your Achilles, your 2 cals, where you go out with a day pack on your back and you meet up with your duffel on a night time. That is the big difference.
Yeah, I think, you can see that in, if you look at Kilimanjaro has a 69% success rate. You get onto Aconcagua and the success rate for Aconcagua just suddenly drops down to like 30% success rate for people. So I think that kind of spells it out right from the start, really. I think, the other big difference is the amount of time that you're actually at altitude for on this one. If you think of a Kilimanjaro trek, you're really not at altitude for that long, are you?
No. You kind of up and back in the day, for the summit peak. You're up, back, you're sleeping. I think on the second camp we were sleeping around 5,500 meters. That's the altitude we were sleeping at. So if your body's not used to that, and the environment plus the weather was a big factor as well. At one stage there was 80, 90 kilometer gusts of wind up there. So although we are prepared, we've got, if we can just go back to the kit list that the guys that were there were very, very thorough, and they will not let you on that mountain unless you have a thorough kit check and have got all the proper equipment. So although we've got everything up there, equipment for weather-wise, the altitude is a big thing combined with the weather.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like the biggest thing, like you were just saying just a minute ago, is it's that ability to put a heavy pack on your back and carry that kit, isn't it? Because that's the biggest thing with this expedition style trip, is that you are responsible for those things, aren't you?
You are, without a doubt. You are responsible. Once we go up to base camp 1, you are then responsible for carrying your own water, which you get supplied by Snowmelt. They obviously melt it for you. You then have to carry your ice axe, your crampons if you're not wearing them. You can get away with wearing your trekking boots so far up, but then you have to carry your double boot with you. You have to carry your sleeping bag, your first aid kit, you name it, whatever, your thermos flask, whatever you're going to need on that mountain, it will be on your back for a good 5 to 6 days. Now, there is the option from camp 1 to camp 3 if you wish to do so, you can hire porters, which come, I must admit, at a great expense. If you can afford it, it's well worth it. And you will be able to just carry your day sack and what you need for that day in your day sack. But prices change when you get on the mountain. But somewhere in the region of, if you wanted a porter to carry your equipment from Camp 1 to Camp 3 and then back down again for you, you're looking in the region of $1,500 for that complete carry.
Yeah, that's a considerable amount to add on to the trip, isn't it? If you wanted to have a porter doing that for you.
It is, and to be fair, I think if you had the right frame of mind to start with, if you said to yourself, I am going to attempt to summit Aconcagua, I think you'd be in the right frame of mind to carry your own equipment anyhow. But that's just my personal way of thinking, because you'll have done that much training to lead up to it, or you should have done, that you should be say, right, this is my bag, I'm going to carry it, and I'm going to summit. And that's the way I look upon it.
And that's pretty easy to train for in the UK, isn't it? It's just literally a case of getting used to having that weight on your back and walking up a hill, isn't it? I know the altitude is going to get you as well in terms of you can't really practice that in the UK, but physically getting strong enough you can do.
Yes. I mean, so obviously start off with a lighter load, start off with your 10 kilos, and walk. What I would say to people is don't look at distances, look at times and gradient. So take yourself off. If you haven't got, if you live somewhere flat, get yourself to the gym, put yourself on a treadmill and say to yourself, right, I'm going to have an hour with 10K on my back. And then just slowly, gradually build it up and get yourself, spend some money on a good Bergen or rucksack, like Ospreys or something like that, and get yourself used to having, in the end, 20 kilos on your back. Go for maybe 3-4 hours on a gradient, on a treadmill, and find out what fits, how to pack your rucksack so it's got a neutral kind of line. Put the heavy stuff at the top. Get used to having that rucksack on your back. Find out where it rubs. Find out how the shoulder fits. And make sure that when you turn up on that mountain, you're literally, that Bergen or rucksack is like a second skin on your back. So when it goes on, how comfortable you are and how it's going to fit and how it's going to work. So that on the mountain, it should be second nature for you just to put it on and go.
And what about how well you're looked after on the mountain from a, obviously you're staying in tents are already up for you. You're not carrying any of that kit, but you are looked after and fed so well on a Aconcagua trek, aren't you?
Yes. The only time I spent money, to be fair, is when we landed in Mendoza, which, fantastic hotel with your local bars and everything else around there. Steak in Argentina is second to none, as well as the Malbec. But then we got picked up. We had a thorough kit check, and then we got picked up. And from getting picked up to go on the mountain to coming down off the mountain, it was virtually all inclusive. We didn't have to buy any food. We were, we sat down at breakfast. It was scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, muesli, porridge, yogurt, you name it. Dinner time came, and it was usually consisted of a charcuterie board, cold cuts, meat, cheeses, bread, garlic dips. Tea time came, and to be fair, tea time came. It was mainly steak and meats. They did also obviously cater for vegetarians, vegans. The options were there. But it's funny, they cooked the steak that well there. It was snowing one night, and there was a guy doing the barbecue in the snow. And he had, the meat came out every time. It was perfection, melted in your mouth every time. So mountain food, all inclusive, just about all the way. The only time you'll spend money is in Mendoza when you're having your own time out.
And that's pretty cheap compared to UK prices for a good steak, isn't it?
Oh yes, it's well below the quality of food you get in steak. Well, any kind of food. The quality of food and drinks and wine is you're getting probably 3 times the amount of food that you're getting in the UK for a slightly cheaper price. So where the hotel is, where we've got the hotel booked, there's a tourist area nearby, or there's the place where the locals go. We tended to go where the locals go because it was more activity. The food was better. They didn't cater for tourists. They cater for the locals. So obviously that'll go down. Anybody going in the near future or the future, them details will be passed on to them, where to go, where to sit, where to eat. Second to none.
And obviously, what advice would you give to people who are considering an Aconcagua trek, or have already booked it and then listening to this going, oh, have I bitten off more than I can chew with this? Like, what advice would you give to them?
I would say to them to respect the task that they've taken on, but don't fear it, because anybody can train for anything, and to me it's a process of elimination and a process that you go through. You eliminate the first day, you've got that under your belt, and then after that you start building up and you build up to the actual mountain trek. Once you get past Plaza de Mujas, you then onto the mountain proper. That could be crampons, it could be your double boots and your 20k carries. So for me, if I was going back again, and anybody else, what I would do is genuinely get out, time on the legs with a heavy pack on your back, and just train and train and train. You don't need to be going fast, just a nice, slow, steady pace. Train on a gradient with a 20-kilo pack on your back, and that should set you up. Don't fear the mountain, but respect it.
And I think that's another, that's a great piece of advice there, Mike. But I think the other thing as well is to appreciate how long this trip actually is. Like, you cannot think of the summit as the end goal right at the start, can you? Because it's a journey.
Yeah. As the guides will say to you when we were going through the kit list, and they all said, because they said it themselves, because it's a 30% summit chance. That includes the person, the weather, the task involved, the journey. The journey is the important part. Think about the arena that you are in. I've never seen mountains and scenery like it anywhere in my life. I've been to Nepal, I've been to Peru, I've been, Galapagos, Ecuador, but that arena we were working in, those valleys, they were unbelievable. The colours and everything, it was breathtaking. I had to stop myself every 5 minutes and turn around just to take it all in.
And like, in terms of, obviously you didn't get the weather window, did you? It was unfortunate that the weather window wasn't quite there for your group this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, we checking the forecast. One of the guys even had a friend in the Met Office who kind of looked at the weather for us, and they said it wasn't good. And unfortunately, we asked one of the guides, and we said, are we going to be able to summit? Are we looking? When's the best time? And he just kind of smirked and went, maybe in a few days, maybe next week, But the forecast, as we got up nearer the top, the forecast was high winds and avalanche. So as always, safety always came first. So we had to, at some point, we had to turn around and make it back down the mountain without being able to summit. But that was through kind of no fault of our own.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a couple that had decided not to go any further as well, wasn't there, prior to that?
Yes, and fair play to them. They'd came with, obviously Aconcagua in mind, but as the trek went on, more days in the tent, more minus degrees, and I think the prospect of the heavy pack and what was entailed with the mountain and the forecast, I think they'd said to themselves, I've reached my goal. And they were genuinely, the people who decided to go early, they were genuinely happy with their decision, that they'd reached their goal. They were happy with where they'd got to. Some had never been as high as that before. So, you've got to respect their decision, and they were genuinely happy with the decision they made.
Well, and it was for them to make their decision as well, wasn't it? It was their decision that they made. They weren't told by the local team, you can't do any further, you're ill. Like it was their own decision that they had reached what they'd come to achieve at the end of the day, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I mean, the guides will like to push you on a little further because they want you to achieve, higher things. But at the same time, a certain person will make a decision, and it's not. I mean, health-wise as well. Health-wise, going up the mountain, it's the real deal up there, and the fact that they have medical tents up there. You get doctors checks, you get your blood pressure, you get your heart rate taken, you get your lungs listened to see whether you're capable. I mean, one guy was going up and he had a little slight blood pressure issue, and the treatment on the mountain is free of charge. So you got given a few tablets, and then off he went. But that had nothing, the health wise and things. It was their own decision. Although the guides would like to push forward, their decision was, I've had enough. I've reached my goal. I'm happy. So let's take me down.
I think that's the other thing about Aconcagua, isn't it? Is that it is and as you were saying there about the doctors at each of the camps, it is a proper outfit on that mountain, isn't it?
Yes, there's no, how can you say, nothing's left to chance. Along with us taking readings, the O2 readings and pulse and what have you, we had, when we turned up at Plaza de Mujas, we had a full doctor's check there, and then when we left for the mountain 4 days later, another full doctor's check there. If the doctor isn't happy in any aspect of what your health is indicating, they just won't let you go. They'll stop you at that camp, and they'll either say to you, we'll keep you here for another day's acclimatization. You can join the group later on, or they'll say to you, right, we're not happy with your health, and we'll take you back down. Yeah, nothing's left a second chance.
What would you put in your bag next time, Mike, that you didn't have in it this time?
Oh, good question. I would more leave stuff out than add stuff in. I would maybe add more Haribos, because that could work as currency on the mountain, because you can't get Haribos in Argentina.
Right.
That could work as currency. To be fair, I think a lot of people overpacked. They would have to do a very good kit check in the hotel before we leave. But to be fair, I would have to come back to you with that answer, because I think I packed everything that I needed, and probably packed too much because I was carrying spare warm kit for the clients. So and spare water for the clients. So for me personally, I would have probably taken stuff out and not added anything.
Yeah, that's a fair answer. And from a client's perspective, were they missing anything? Was there anything that you'd advise? I mean, obviously, some people go really, like for me, like I'm just a hot person anyway. Like I don't feel the cold as much, but for someone who maybe feels the cold, like
Yes.
was there stuff missing from their kit list? Do you think that would have made it easier for them, or?
Kit list wise, I think if we can have a look at it, there was a bit of confusion to start with. Sleeping bags, I would recommend a minimum -20 comfort rating for your sleeping bag. Certainly a double boot on the mountain. They do say you can wear other boots, but they do say at the same time it can get up to -30 on the mountain easily. So a good double boot. You need the proper jacket, not just your ordinary, 900 kind of filled jacket, your 900 rating jacket. You need a proper summer jacket. Those are the on the kit list that we had to hire a bit of stuff because the guides were very particular about keeping warm. And I'm the same as you. I run hot. I thought this jacket will be all right. This will be okay. This will be okay. But the guides were very, very particular in the fact that you had to have stuff that was specific for more or less 8,000 meters. So that if the clients are going, by all means, they can get in touch with me or you. But specifically, the proper equipment. Don't try and skimp on anything.
Hiring wise out there, Mike, easily done when you got there?
Yes, the where the hotel is, it's sort of like ideally situated. You've got a supermarket for your snacks 100 meters away, and then maybe 300 meters away is the hire shop. If you can't get what you require in the hire shop, there's umpteen others that the guides will take you to, and they do have the proper equipment there. They do have everything that's needed, from your crampons to your ice axe to your expedition jackets to your sleeping bags to your double boots. They've genuinely got everything. So if you're a client who doesn't want to buy, that kind of equipment going out there, and it will save it on your luggage because your luggage is kind of tight with your 23 kilos and all your equipment, you can certainly hire it out there. So if you hire...
What were prices like, Mike, out there for that then?
Off the top of my head, I think a double boot was $200. I think a sleeping bag was $140. A jacket was, I think, $120, I think. But if you pay cash in the shop, you genuinely do get a 20% reduction.
Really?
Yeah, seriously, yeah. I went to pay with card and they said we prefer cash. And I said, do you get the discount with the cash? And they said, yes. So you've got a receipt for whatever you paid by cash, but then they knocked 20% off and you paid the whatever it was with 20% knocked off.
And I think, for a lot of people who maybe, they're not sure if they're going to continue after an Aconcagua trek into the high mountains, like going and hiring that kit is so much cheaper than going and buying it, isn't it?
It is, yes, it is. And to be fair, I had a concern about my boots. I haven't wore the boots. What will they be like? What will be, will the fitters? So you try them on in the shop. But what you can do is you can try them for a couple of days on the trek while, leading up to the mountain. You can wear them for a couple of hours, put them in the day sack and you can
Mm.
try them out. Bear in mind that you'll never break these things in anyhow.
Yeah.
It's just how your feet feel in them. So don't be afraid of having to hire your boots over there and thinking, will they fit, will they not? Because they will find a pair of boots that will fit you. And for 90% of the trek, you could be wearing your normal trekking boots, apart from summit day, depending on the weather.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose the biggest question then is, Mike, obviously you didn't get to tick Aconcagua off. You were in that 70% that don't achieve on this one, because of the weather. But would you go back and do it again?
I would. I think mentally and physically, although I felt okay to carry on, mentally and physically, I'll be better prepared because it'll be going like over all ground, and I would relish the challenge to tackle it again, and I would take what I've learned from this experience. I would take that on to the next one, and like I was saying before, you've got to respect the mountain, but not fear it, because it is doable, and you've just got to pray to the weather gods and everything to be lined up for you. And I would relish the chance to try it again with some of the like-minded people.
I think from our perspective, I think obviously, communication over there is amazing, isn't it? Like, we were speaking most days, like, you pretty much had signal every day on the mountain, didn't you?
Yes. How it works is they've got a Starlink on the camps. So, unless something's down with the electric, you will have almost perfect Wi-Fi on every camp you go to. The only thing you might struggle with is from camp 1 to camp 3 is the internet is powered by solar energy. So if you've had a lot of cloud that day, or it's snowing or something like that, you might struggle to get power for the internet. But at no time when I was there, right from the bottom up until camp 2, we had internet every time we would camp.
Yeah, there are some things we have to thank Elon Musk for, and there we go. Your internet on the mountain was thanks to Elon with Starlink. So, but I think one thing that kind of came out about this was, from our perspective at the Bucket List Company, I think we need to be bringing the team together sooner to support each other in the run up to the trip.
Yes, definitely. It would be good to swap stories on kit, on probably experiences that we've had on the mountain. What day is this? What day is that? Because what I tend to found was, when you look at people who've done Killy and Tukal, they'll look at maybe distances, whereas here you don't look at distances, you look at time and gradient. So that was, that's a different aspect to climbing this mountain. But certainly for kit wise, we can look at our kit list and, make a few tweaks in there. And if people who are going on the trip, if they meet up earlier, or maybe even start the WhatsApp group up earlier, we can swap stories, what works, what doesn't, what do you need, what don't you need. Because I had a lot of stuff on that mountain that I actually didn't need. And everything that was on the list, you did actually need, but maybe just a different type of something.
Yeah.
So communication, big thing. Yeah, definitely.
And I think also as well, from a from a training perspective, to make sure that everyone is on the same page with the training, because ultimately, if you've got a general good level of fitness, like,
yes,
you could probably get ready for this mountain in like 3-4 months, can you?
Yes. If you've got a good level of fitness, all it is just then, if you've got that good level, it's just building up your endurance with weight on your back, up a gradient and down a gradient. Because although going up is quite hard, on this mountain, coming down was quite hard as well. It takes its toll on its legs and your ankles and everything else. So, yes, weight, gradient, up and down. Yes, definitely.
Don't think about distances.
Yeah. Timing. Think about timing. Think to yourself, I'm going to go on the treadmill today, and build it up slowly. Start with an hour and then build it up to 3 to 4 hours. Just nice, steady, slowly, just a slow gradient. Take yourself off the treadmill after 5 minutes. Have yourself a little break, drink, what have you, snack, and then back on the treadmill and set yourself another hour on that treadmill, another gradient, and off you go again. And also try yourself with different gels and different fruit bars, different endurance foods, because what you tend to find is some people will start going up the mountain and they'll try a gel that they've never had in their life before, and then 2 minutes later they're like really bad stomach cramps. So get yourself used to using the gels that you are used to and not first time on the mountain.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for that advice, Mike. I think that's been really, really useful. I mean, what's the one thing to finish off then? What's the one thing that you'll say to anyone that's thinking about adding Aconcagua to their bucket list?
Simply do it. Train yourself up to do it. Don't take it. It's not for the faint-hearted. Take yourself off, train it, and it will be so enjoyable. Mendoza, the people, the guides, the mountain, the arena that you're working in, it's an unforgettable experience that is well worth the effort.
Brilliant. Well, Mike, thanks ever so much for joining us. I know you've got plenty of other trips booked in with us for 2025. So anyone listening, hopefully you'll get to meet up with Mike at some point this year. And if Aconcagua is on your bucket list, then, you can contact me. I can put you in contact with Mike so you can speak to him, and then, we can go from there. But I think it definitely is a worthy bucket list tick, though, isn't it, Mike?
Definitely. If I had to sum it up in one word, outstanding.
There we go. What more of a recommendation do you need than that? Well, that's it for this week. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Thanks ever so much, Mike, for coming on. And I'll be back next week with another episode of the Bucket Lister podcast. But until then, thanks very much and goodbye.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bucket Lister podcast. Be sure to click follow to be alerted for next week's episode. For more travel inspiration, check us out at www.thebucketlistcompany.co.uk or follow us on socials. See you next time.